Hey, Brock Cannon, founder of Don'tHitBikes.com. I'm here with Chase Pinkham, and we've been talking about just the typical workout week for him and training, and pretty amazing. It's been blowing me away. But Chase, tell all of our viewers kind of what a typical training week is for you. Maybe that varies during the season, but just tell us a little bit about that.
My typical training weeks are generally, hours-wise, I'd say I average around 18 hours a week, something like that, but a lot of very specific wattage intervals. During the winter, it's generally maybe 20 to 22 hours a week on the trainer for a big week. For some of my smaller weeks, they're more maybe 14 to 15 hours. But throughout that, I'm doing very specific work on my power. That's how I like to train. I don't like to do a lot of junk miles. I like to be very specific in my training. My coach Max Testa is excellent with that and has kind of taught me well on how to maximize what you're doing in the least amount of time possible.
Fantastic. So within that week, obviously you live here in Salt Lake City, a lot of great mountains, but you're also probably on the road a lot. How do you adapt that training schedule when you're on the road?
When you're on the road, generally you'll have a plan for a race. It'll be like you fly out maybe Friday for a race that starts on Sunday. So you fly out Friday, maybe use that as a rest day. Saturday, do a little tune-up ride, and then race Sunday, and you go from there. On the road, generally, if you're on the road with the team, you're not so much training as just kind of keeping your legs loose and fun out. So generally when I'm on the road, unless I'm actually doing a training camp, I don't really worry about my training too heavily. I might do a few little specific, like just opener intervals or something just to keep my body going. But they're generally shorter rides, and a lot of times on the indoor trainer if you're at a hotel. Because I mean, a lot of the cities we're in, it's kind of hard to ride, like say Chicago or something like that. It's kind of hard to ride on the road. So shorter rides, just to keep your body going, basically.
Absolutely, and you're a tremendous all-rounder racer. Obviously, I think you've proven that with your results this year. Known here specifically in Salt Lake City to be an unbelievable climber. You hold several records up the local canyons for hill climb races. What advice would you give to someone that wants to improve their climbing?
For climbing, a lot of it really comes down to metering your efforts and knowing where to go hard and where to ease up a little bit. I found that like on the steeper sections, push yourself because that's where you can make the most time gains. And when it levels out, don't ease up completely, but just slightly modulate your effort to be a little easier, let yourself get some recovery. I like alternating, getting in and out of the saddle. I'm kind of a very active body climber. I maybe stay in the saddle for every 3 minutes. I'm out of the saddle for one, something like that. So I like to really change up my body position. And for the most part, it's really just training yourself to be able to go at threshold for a long period of time, doing like 2 by 20-minute intervals at your threshold heart rate or threshold power is really, really effective. And then just being motivated and just being willing to push yourself on a climb is the biggest piece of success, honestly.
That's amazing. And then with your time trialing, you did incredibly well this year, especially at the U.S. Pro Championships. What tips would you give for someone that wants to improve their time trialing?
For time trialing, it really is very similar to climbing. It's less body position movement, so you have to really train yourself on how to stay in a very aerodynamic position for a long period of time and put out good power. So what I'll do for like time trialing training would be Max has me do a lot of like 8-minute intervals, and those I find pretty effective. But then every once in a while, you just kind of have to suck it up and do like an hour in your aero bars to get your body really used to riding in that position. And getting a good bike fit on your time trial bike, I'd say, is probably the most important thing you can do. Mike Hansine from Mill Creek Bicycles fit me, and it's a fantastic position. I've never been so comfortable on that bike before, and that's what I'd say to start out with. Would be find a really good position that allows you to put out a large amount of power, and then go from there.
Fantastic. Hey, and then lastly, tell us a little bit about your nutrition. Obviously, you are burning a tremendous amount of calories every day with all the hours you're putting in. How do you fuel your body?
I found one effective strategy for me is in the past few years I've gone a little bit too low on my protein intake. I think a lot of athletes for endurance stuff get a little bit too focused on eating carbs all the time. So I found if I eat a little bit lighter and more protein heavy outside of riding, and then eat a lot very diligently during a ride, like 400 calories an hour of carbs is really effective for me. And it is kind of like a full-time job to keep yourself fueled on the bike. But I'd say that's the most effective strategy I've found is eat a lot on the bike and then eat a little bit more protein heavy off the bike. That's just what has worked for me. I know everybody's very individual, but that's what I found is kind of the most effective for me, because if you're eating a ton on the bike, you don't have as much to recover afterwards. And then off the bike, you're getting in the protein that you're not eating on the bike. I don't know. That's just what's worked for me. So my N=1 tip.
Fantastic. Awesome. Great. Tremendous tips. Thanks so much, Chase.
No worries.